McFadden in, even though he's going to be presenting the next show. Callum, Celtic messed up the schedule. Would you credit that? Celtic messed it up, pal.
They did, but in the end, it was the most incredible game of football. I know, obviously, from a Celtic perspective, given the quality of the first half, you can't be happy with the second half and how the performance deteriorated. But when you win a quadruple treble, I think it's impossible not to get caught up in the emotion, and that's the way I feel about it now. I'm sure you guys are the same. We'll never see anything like that again, Paul. Never. No,
we won't. And by the way, I'm glad you're here, because Lawrence and I need a wee bit of time to go away and compose ourselves, I think, after that. So we've been doing this all back office stuff where we play a wee video and we do all the turnaround and magically people appear. But you know what? Let's give everybody a wee peek behind the curtain and let's just do it live time. So as soon as your compadre arrives into the broadcast studio, I'll invite him in. Lawrence and I will disappear and it's over to you, my friend. But whilst we're waiting on him, let's talk about that game today. Wow. I mean, 3-3. Scott Brown, the header, the Lee Griffiths, it was written. That was a script. Griffiths was going to win us that. And no, this Celtic side. Let's chuck it again. Let's take it to penalties. And not just that, let's go behind in penalties and rely on Connor Hazard to get us out of jail. 22-year-old inexperienced goalie.
Just unbelievable. And when you consider the nature of the game, as you've said, it's just crazy. And I don't think I'll be the only person. When Celtic went behind in penalties, Paul, I think we could just see the writing on the wall almost of Neil Lennon. The pressure being under him, is there going to be a change? But thankfully we don't need to worry about that tonight. We can enjoy tonight.
We can. Welcome to the Quadruple Treble Weekender, James. My eyes are burning. I've been looking at this screen for the last 5 hours, so it's welcome that you and Callum are going to give us a wee bit of relief.
Indeed. Well, congratulations first and foremost.
Good man.
With Celtic winning, I'm pleased for you. And a great way to start our shift, if you like.
Oh, absolutely. Now, we're running a wee bit late, but I think everybody will accept that. So I'll let the next show know. Take your hour, Callum. I don't mind staying 15 minutes after the day and the experience we've just had. But all that's left for me to say is, Lawrence Conley, thank you for your contribution. I'll catch up with you next week, my friend.
All right. Keep it here, mate.
And you two guys, over to you. I will be watching in the background with a strong cup of coffee. Enjoy, and I'll catch up with you soon, all right?
Take it easy.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Well, James, we come on air at the moment that it means a lot for Celtic fans. When Paul announced the Quadruple Treble Charity Weekender, I was delighted to get involved. When Celtic went behind in penalties, I'll be honest, James, I was terrified because I thought, right, he's called it the Quadruple Treble Charity Weekender. If Celtic don't win this today and you and I have to come on air afterwards, it's going to be a tough shift. But Connor Hazard saving the penalties has made it a lot easier for us.
Well, we're professional to the very end, so we'll always find a way. And pleased for Celtic. Such a massive club. Not just at home, but also abroad, very highly respected here in the Netherlands as well. As I touched on one of our podcasts in the past, I remember when they came to Amsterdam for the Europa League match in, I think it was September 2014. And I went to that match and it was a 2-2 draw, if my memory serves me rightly. And I was in the lower tier behind the goal. And I kid you not, I could hear the Celtic fans above me, and not just a couple, literally all of them. They literally took over that stadium, and they also, marched from like the city centre to the main station, and then all got the train down from the central station to where the stadium is. And it's not a long journey. It only takes about 15 minutes, not even that. But they literally took over the city that day, and I think they enjoyed coming for an away day. I remember when they came here in 2003, and they was I think they knocked Celtics out in the qualifying rounds of the Champions League Ajax. That was the start of my journey here, if you like. When they went on to qualify for the Champions League, come up against my club, and 2 years later I move here. It's strange how things come together, really.
It certainly is. And on this show, basically, to introduce everyone to James, this is James Rowe. James is the chief football writer for Football CFB. He also writes for The Secret Footballer. James has interviewed over 300 players and managers. His 300th publication will be coming up over the next few months into 2021. And just to start, James, just can you give the listeners a wee bit of background about your interviews to date and who you've got coming up?
Well, first and foremost, just thank you very much for the kind words. And yeah, it's great to be part of Football CFB, first and foremost. Fantastic overtures from the Secret Footballer as well. You know, fantastic reward for 4.5 years of hard work. And for people that don't know me, my name is James Rowe. I'm originally from the UK. I emigrated to the Netherlands nearly 15 years ago now. I've just passed the 14.5-year mark. And I started out interviewing Dutch players and managers here in the Netherlands, which took me to the likes of Venlo, Zwolle, Enschede. And then things kind of spiraled from there, where a different publisher called World Football Index came in for me. And before I knew it, it was interviewing the likes of Danny Cowley, Graham Potter, Ricky van Rollerswinkel. I might add that I sourced all these interviews myself, which gave me an awful lot of confidence. And then in August this year, I was approached by your good self about publishing my interviews. And since my interviews have been published on Football CFB, it's just kind of gone up a notch even more. It's really interesting to look back on a great body of work for the last 4.5 years, with everyone having a story to tell at all different levels, and being able to interview Dutch players and managers in their mother tongue, being able to interview in English and Spanish as well, and always looking for the human element of footballers. I remember when I spoke to John Heron, who also has a Celtic past, and we spoke a couple of months ago about his time at Celtic. And, always tailor-making the interviews. There's always something that you don't know. And people often ask me, Callum, what my favourite interview is. And it's a very difficult question to answer. And I try to tell people that I don't have favourite interviews. I have watershed interviews. And they are, the likes of Bob Wilson, who's a legend of my club, Arsenal. Danny Cowley, because it was the first one of note where, it's very ambitious in terms of the request. And and for him to ring me back, it was a busy professional football manager at the time, but to give me the time of day. And then as well, the assistant chief executive of the PFA, Simon Barker, I think that one remains a standout one due to his standing in the game. I hold ambitions to hopefully work one day on the media side of a professional club. And I must say, since writing for Football CFB, to have the likes of Bayern Munich, the English FA, the Dutch FA, Manchester United and Aston Villa view my LinkedIn profile, it gives me a lot of confidence. And I'm just hoping that hopefully when the corona kind of subsides, that a club is courageous enough to come in and say, right, James, we've seen enough now and we'd like you to be part of our team.
And in terms of Celtic, I mean, you've interviewed some former Celtic players. You mentioned John Heron, Adam Virgo's another. What other Celtic players have you managed to interview over the years?
Well, actually, they're the two that stick in the mind because they're the most recent, really. But obviously, to go back into an archive of 300, of course, you do forget a couple. But obviously, if I go back on John Heron, for example, and Adam Virgo, they're both immensely proud to sign for the club. And it is a massive club as well. I mean, if you think of the history of the club and what the club represents, I've never been to Celtic Park before. I've seen them play live twice, actually. I saw them in I think it was pre-season friendly against Ajax as well before the Europa League match. And obviously they came up against my team in the Champions League as well. And just a massive gargantuan club, and everything about football club. I mean, I remember when I spoke to Peter Grant as well, and that's another one that kind of stuck in the memory with a Celtic past. And he was talking about his love for Celtic, that he didn't want the time to end, and he wanted it to last forever. And he was saying about, I think it was his grandfather who would be the one that would kind of arrange buses for young school kids that were in and around Glasgow to go and watch Celtic play, and the effort involved in that. And I remember I remember speaking to Peter Grant about his stint at Norwich as well, because I think it's important to say Peter Grant was good friends with Alex Ferguson, and when Peter Grant got the Norwich job, he received a phone call from Alex Ferguson, and he said, it's a great job to have. Norwich are a great club. He said, but the location where it is, and knowing how hard Peter Grant works in terms of scouting, in terms of going to scout players, looking at the youth players, trying to get into the gym early to make sure there's enough exercise, and keeping sound in body and mind. He said it's a very difficult job to have, and Peter Grant even said himself, there were such long days, that sometimes he hardly saw his family. But in terms of Celtic, he really did not want the time to end.
Absolutely, and I'm just reading some of the comments there. So basically, James and I are here obviously for this show, which is going to explore the Dutch connections at Celtic over the years. An incredible result today for Celtic, history in the making. I agree with the comments, it won't be seen again. But we're, as I say, we're here to talk about the Dutch connections. This is part of the charity weekender, of course, that we are desperate and happy to support. First question, James, about the Dutch connection at Celtic. This is a big season where Celtic are going for 10 in a row. The other side in Glasgow are going for 10 in a row in the 90s, and we're stopped by Wim Jansen, a Dutchman. Just explain what the significance of Wim Jansen in Dutch football.
Well, if I start off with his beloved Feyenoord, to make over 400 appearances for Feyenoord, win the European Cup in 1970, be part of that first Dutch side to win the European Cup, and to make so many appearances like he did. And he also played for Ajax, which is the huge rival, although he didn't play as many games for Ajax as he did for Feyenoord. But, he was also a runner-up in the World Cups in 74 and 78, and was part of that generation along with Neeskens, Cruyff, Subir, those men, that were not just fantastic footballers, but also fantastic camaraderie, both on and off the pitch. That, it's just like playing with your mates, but 30 years before everybody else comes onto it, in terms of defending space and playing together and working hard, and also knocking out Arsenal. And it was Ajax that knocked out Arsenal, but what I'm saying is that the camaraderie that those players had, particularly at international level, and he was a huge part of that for the Netherlands. And then to come to Celtic as well, a massive club, and to stop the 10 in a row happening. He may have only been there one season, but it was a very big season for Celtic. And he's looked upon with a lot of affection. He was a fantastic servant for his country in particular. As I say, 400 appearances for Feyenoord doesn't come too easy. Playing alongside Van Hanegem as well. So, he's a fantastic player and also a very, very good manager too.
Absolutely, and it was an incredible season when Celtic stopped 10 in a row. History was made that day, just as history has been made today. Another person I really want to talk to you about is Henrik Larsson. Now, Henrik Larsson is, of course, Swedish. He's from Sweden, but he joined Celtic from Feyenoord. Yeah. What was it like when? What was the reaction to Henrik Larsson when he was playing in the Netherlands? And be honest, James, when he arrives at Celtic, did you expect him to go on to have the career with the club that he did? Because let's not forget, he was successful in the '94 World Cup with Sweden, so he didn't come as a complete unknown.
No, and also the transfer that Feyenoord paid for him. I think they paid the Swedish club, I think, just under 300,000 euros at the time. I think, or 300,000. What it translates to as euros in this day and age. But he won two Dutch Cups for Feyenoord. It's no mean feat. And Feyenoord, together with PSV and Ajax, they are the traditional top three here in the Netherlands. And at the moment, with Dick Advocaat, finishing off his last season, they lost today. It's Vitesse, and a new manager for next season, Arne Slot, has already been announced. He was the manager who was recently sacked by AZ Alkmaar, and he's now going to be managing Feyenoord as of next season. But they highly respect him here, because obviously Larsson like myself, is also fluent in Dutch. And obviously, when you arrive in the Netherlands, you need time to adapt, and some people learn quicker than others. But I've also seen Henrik Larsson in the past give interviews on Dutch TV, and he is exceptionally high quality.
He is indeed, and he talks very fondly of his time at Celtic. I was fortunate to interview Henrik earlier this year, and he's still in love with the club now. And I can only imagine, although he's over in Barcelona today, he will be absolutely delighted. Now, there's a fair few comments coming in, James, obviously, about today. Celtic have won the quadruple treble. So let's spend some time talking about it. As I say, the comments are coming in thick and fast, as I can see here. We aren't intentionally ignoring it, I promise you. It's just, as I say, we were booked in for this slot. But let's be honest, James, to win 12 domestic trophies in a row is one hell of an achievement. I mean, you think of your club is Arsenal. Obviously, you were based in England before you moved to the Netherlands. This is the equivalent of Arsenal winning the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the League Cup for 4 years on the trot. When I put it like that, James, just how incredible an achievement is this? And could it ever be done again? Because, as I said to Paul just before you came on air, I don't think this will ever come again. I think this is such an achievement that, as Martin O'Neill said on air on BBC today, I don't think this will be done even in 100 years' time. No,
and I think he's absolutely right as well. And people are often quick to malign different countries and kind of say that it's only a 2-horse race, or things like that. But Rangers are also up and coming. I think they'll have their time going forward, and Gerrard's doing a very, very good job. But I think you have to respect every country. As someone who's dealt with players and managers from all over the world in the last 4.5 years, professional elite sport at the highest level of a particular country must always be respected. And in the case of Celtic as well, the pressure involved to play for such a club, people say, oh, it must be easy in Scotland. I disagree. It must be very difficult to keep up the level of expectation at Celtic and Rangers in particular, in terms of both clubs. But yeah, it's a great achievement, something that also needs to be celebrated, even in these strange times. My club is struggling in the Premier League. We look as if we're going to be pulled into a relegation fight, and I find myself having to kind of untwist my tongue when I say that sentence. But unfortunately, due to the situation that Arsenal find themselves in, and with the owner that we find ourselves in, it wouldn't surprise me. And I see a lot of discontent among the Arsenal fans. And, we are, there's only 2 clubs, in English football bigger than Arsenal, and that's Manchester United and Liverpool. And we used to have such high standards, Callum, but they're slowly slipping away. And sad to see, as a fan I've supported the club for more than 30 years, before COVID, I was touching on... Before the COVID outbreak, I was touching on 45 games from the Netherlands, where I'm based, 45 Arsenal games since the 2011-2012 season. So I was looking forward to doing a half century, but that would just have to be put on the back burner at the moment until things are safe. But yeah, fantastic achievement for Celtic, delighted for them. And they've also got to enjoy these moments. I mean, if I may, I remember going to Highbury before I left for the Netherlands, and I was watching Arsenal play sumptuous football. And I remember I was sitting in the East Stand that day, and there was a voice shouting at the top of his lungs, "We all need to enjoy this. We all need to take this in, because we're never going to see this like again." And he was absolutely spot on. I mean, if you fast forward from 2004, the last match I actually saw at Highbury was Arsenal Celta Vigo before I came to the Netherlands. I had a year of not going to football, and especially Arsenal matches. And don't ask me how I survived, but I did. And then I had, obviously, building a life up here. And my first 5 years in this country, I didn't go to a single Arsenal match. And although I was very happy with life here, and to have all the things you could only dream of, a beautiful home and stable work, and the ability to find to speak a foreign languages, there was always part of me that when the friends would see me on a Saturday, not every Saturday, but just every now and again, they'd see in my face that, I wish I was there today. And that's why I was hell-bent on, especially before the COVID outbreak, attending as many Arsenal games as I could. Win, lose or draw, it doesn't matter. But I'm hoping I'll get to attend a few games at the end of the season, because I think they might need me, as well as other fans in the stadium, encouraging them to hopefully avoid what is seemingly unthinkable, or what was unthinkable.
And in terms of the achievement today, James, as we've talked about and we've mentioned, it is incredible, the piece of history today. I want to ask you about a player that's at Arsenal at the moment. And the reason I want to ask you about this, Arsenal, as you say, are going through a really tough time at the moment. Do you think Kieran Tierney might be sitting down in London this evening thinking, I just wish I'd stayed at Celtic to be part of this, because he could have made history today, but unfortunately, as for him, as we say, Celtic are making history while he's on the end of another defeat?
Yeah, I think part of him will think that. He's obviously had that terrible injury, against West Ham, which kept him out for a long time. But he's endeared himself to the Arsenal fans. But Arsenal's problem, Callum, it starts with an owner who's completely disinterested, who only sees Arsenal as a safeguard of a long-term investment. We need a hands-on owner. We don't have that. When you don't have two loves, as they say. But in the case of Kroenke, his first love is LA Rams, not Arsenal. And I see a lot of Arsenal fans, Overmars is leaving Ajax. They're thinking, oh, Overmars can come to Arsenal. It's not as simple as that. Ajax play the same way from the young players under nines all the way up into the first team. They play the same way, and the youth is the lifeblood of the club. And Overmars also did the same role at Go Ahead Eagles, and he did a really good job. Go Ahead Eagles are currently first division, but they'll be on their way back before too long, and they're a very well respected club. And he did that job at Go Ahead Eagles before he arrived at Ajax, so he knew what he was doing. But to go back to your point, I think Kieran Tierney will be thinking, maybe I should have stayed at Celtic. But timing is everything in football, as we know when speaking to players. We've both spoken to players that a transfer has made their career and literally broken their career. And I think we've reached the stage now, especially in transfers, where what is the deciding factor is not necessarily the money. I think the deciding factor is, will this chance come round again? And if I don't take this chance, will I be full of regret that the chance came and I didn't take it? But unfortunately, at the highest level, the clubs are also being spammed by agents and third parties, where clubs are receiving impersonalized correspondence, hoping that a player will stick. And they're kind of you see how, in the case of Chelsea's transfer boss Marina, how well she's doing. And I've heard firsthand from an agent I spoke to recently, Stephanie Molina, her inbox is always empty. She always answers her emails, and yes is yes and no means no, and she's very transparent. But fortunately, not all people are like that in football. But as you dig deep, coming across players and managers, you learn to understand these things. And I look at my club at the minute, and I just think to myself, where does it all end? Because we don't have a united fan base neither. And normally, if you had a united fan base, regardless of what's going on the pitch, you stick together. But we don't even have that. It's always about which fan has got the most clout. But I'm not being funny. Certain fans that think that way, if you prod them just a little bit, they don't know much. And I'm not being funny. In certain cases, they're not in the position that me and you are in. And I go back to a fantastic phrase that Jock Stein said to Alex Ferguson when they qualified for the World Cup. And unfortunately passed away shortly afterwards. But before the game, Jock Stein was even saying to Ferguson, whatever happens, we must keep our dignity. We must keep our integrity. And I think that's a fantastic quote. And I just think in terms of fan culture in this day and age, I think a lot of fans, I think they forget that very quickly, and that's quite sad in my opinion.
It can be, but as you know, James, when passions run high, fans can say certain things and they want change. We're seeing that even with Celtic at the moment, with calls for a change at board level or long term in the managerial hot seat. We've got a comment in from Thomas Patrick Smith. Hello to you, Thomas. He's saying Christopher Ayer, who scored the winning pen today, when he scored, it showed how much it meant. Hopefully, we can kick on now. Now, as we've talked about, James, today's a momentous day for Celtic. It's a momentous day for Scottish football and the history of the game up here. As we say, as we both agree, this will probably never be repeated. Do you think this could be a catalyst for Celtic and Neil Lennon to take the chase in the title race and try and claw back Steven Gerrard and his side in the next few weeks and months?
Potentially. I think it would depend what Rangers do in Europe. I mean, Rangers are playing a very underrated side in Antwerp. And, they beat Tottenham, and came through a group with Linsk as well, who was, and Ludogorets, who'd been playing Champions League football not so long ago. So Antwerp have done particularly very well. It'll be interesting to see how far Rangers actually go in Europe. I think that will also, play a part of what could happen. But also, I think sometimes things fall into place for a team. And I recently spoke to Kmar Roof for Football CFB, and he was saying that, the people like Bielsa and people like Gerrard, there's a method to the things they do. It's simply not lining up 11 against 11 and hoping for the best. It's, there's a method. It's like a chess game, really. And I think Gerrard, the Rangers are obviously the big rival of Celtic, but I think from a neutral point of view, like I am, I think that Rangers also need to be commended for taking the chance on Gerrard, because it appears to be the worst kept secret in football that as soon as Klopp moves on from Liverpool, then there's only going to be one name in the frame.
Well, it seems that way. And another comment that's come in there from Peter. The atmosphere at games with no fans, that's a big talking point. I mean, today, remember, was a Scottish Cup final and there was no fans at the game. Celtic are a club that have an incredibly passionate fan base. At Celtic Park on a European evening, as many of the greats of the game have talked about, Iniesta, Messi and others, is an atmosphere to behold. Could it be said, James, that having no fans at games is affecting Celtic more than other sides, or is that too simplistic, do you feel?
No, I think obviously to have that amount of people watching you, and it must affect a player, and also as well for the players that play against Celtic and they get promoted from the Scottish First Division and they go, or the Scottish Championship, and they go to play at Ibrox and they go to play at Celtic Park. It's a great feel for them as well. So I think opponents were also missing the fans. The atmosphere that Celtic have. As you say, the European nights. Barcelona and Milan spring to mind. And Celtic have also won the European Cup, which people mustn't forget. One of my pet hates, if you like, is people seemingly being forgetful about history. Celtic have won the European Cup, Hamburg have won the European Cup, Aston Villa have won the European Cup, Nottingham Forest have won the European Cup. This is history, and it mustn't be forgotten. However long ago it was, you must never ever forget it.
You must never forget history. I've got a picture behind me of the Lisbon Lions there. In terms of that achievement, James, again, the comments coming in are from Celtic fans. I myself am a Celtic fan. And for me, obviously, we're caught up in the history because it's our club. For you as an outsider, when you think of the story of 67 and the fact that the players came from within 30 miles of Glasgow, less than 30 miles of Glasgow, that's something that will never, ever be done again.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, for all the good that Celtic represents, I think that triumph, I know society has changed, I know football has changed, but that particular triumph was just, that will never ever be repeated again. And, the togetherness of that squad, to go and do what they did, it's not easy. And, in terms of you only had the champions going into play in the European Cup, to go into, I'd give my right arm for my team to win the European Cup. We lost the final when we lost the final in 2006, and things could have been very different. But I think that Lisbon Lions achievement in particular, it transcends beyond football. Even people that don't have no affiliation with Celtic, they can't help but respect such an achievement because it's extremely unique and very special.
It is, and one of the things that I think sums up the way Celtic fans react to winning the European Cup is the fact that so many fans travel to the Estadio Nacional in Lisbon, and I was one of them. I went there in 2019 in October, and I remember going to the stadium, and I remember thinking, right, I'm going to the Estadio Nacional. It means a lot to me. My fiance was coming with me, and I said to her, I went, there's going to be Celtic fans here at the stadium today. It's not just going to be us. And she said to me, she said, no chance. It's a random Tuesday in October. There is no way that there'll be lots of people here. Her interest in football is something that is limited. She enjoys football, but not to the extent that I do. And as soon as we got to the stadium, we got out the taxi, and sure enough, as we got towards pitch side, there was literally 8 or 10 Celtic fans there taking pictures of the plaque, walking up to where Big Billy McNeil lofted that trophy above his head. And it was an incredible experience for me. It was something totally unique, because you wouldn't get many fan bases in the world that would dedicate the place where they won the European Cup as a pilgrimage, and Celtic fans do that.
Yeah, but that's good. That's a good thing. If anything, it's what makes it special. And as I say, we are in an industry where history is written every day. A manager loses his job, a player breaks out, a player signs for a club, and you see a lot of hyperbole in this day and age, and the tradition as well. The tradition of respecting what's gone before. It's also something which is vitally important, and it should never be lost sight of, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And Philip DeMarco getting in touch to say, history is what makes us today, and today is all about the 12th trophy. Philip, I totally agree with you. Today is about the 12th trophy. Today is about history for Celtic. It's about history in Scottish football. It's an incredible achievement, and I'm sure your nerves were shattered just as mine were when the penalties were there. 9th Legion getting in touch there as well. It was an incredible day for Celtic. History is made every day, and it's something that defines football clubs, and it's all about going forward now, and that's going to be the interesting thing for Celtic. And just to stay on the aspect of going forward, I mean, Jonathan Brown's just got in touch to say Europe is where we really get noticed, Philip. A lot of Celtic fans on the comments today, James, have said performances in Europe haven't been good this season, and a lot of people want to see a change in manager. I'm not necessarily saying today. I think an aspect of the fan base will, but I think most people agree long term they want to see a managerial change. The big question, James, and I don't want to speculate over Neil Lennon's job for a long period of time, because it's unfair on a day like this, but longer term, what sort of managers out there do you think would be suitable for Celtic longer term? For me, I've been on record as saying that I think Eddie Howe longer term would be a manager that would appeal to me at Celtic, because like Brendan Rodgers when he arrived, I think he would bring an air of professionalism. He plays football the right way. He wants to play football on the ground. He wants to attack teams, and that's what great Celtic teams have always had in their locker. From your perspective as an outsider, who do you think it would be a good fit for Celtic in the longer term?
Well, it depends what direction they want to go in. If I just bring it back to the European escapades this year, first and foremost, I think you have to respect the fact that it was in a very difficult group. Sparta Prague, Milan and Lille, 3 very good sides, 3 very difficult away days. So there's no shame in not getting through that group, in my opinion. I think we live in a world, unfortunately, where some fans, if it's not Barcelona or Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, the rest must be pub teams. Sparta Prague, arguably the biggest club in the Czech Republic, AC Milan needs no introduction, and Lille have made tremendous progress both on and off the pitch in recent years. And if you compare that to Arsenal's group, Dundalk, Molde and Rapid Vienna, we won all 6 games, but we should win. We should have won all 6, and we did. But I don't expect Arsenal to win in Lisbon, and I don't expect Arsenal to win in London. So I think our adventure will come to a premature end, unfortunately. In terms of manager, it'd be interesting to see which candidates are put forward. We saw West Brom appoint Sam Allardyce, and I'd like to think that Celtic could be a bit more innovative. And there's so many good young managers coming up. You got to make a choice which is a little bit outside the box. In terms of names, I'm not entirely sure. I don't really know who's in the running. I think as well. I think a club like Celtic, to have a Scottish manager would also be a good idea. Because you're also safeguarding the national game. Scotland qualified for their first major tournament in 22 years with a Scottish coach at the helm. And that's a fantastic advantage, and that's a fantastic achievement. And I think if there are good, young, promising Scottish managers out there, then why not look to appoint someone from Scotland? And then you're building them up with the experience that if they do well, it could in turn help the Scottish national team in future as well.
It could, and I'm interested in the comments. Who do you think would be a long-term Celtic manager? Because I think if you look at it today, it's Neil Lennon's day, it's Celtic's day, and I think Neil Lennon will remain in charge at Celtic, definitely now for the next few weeks at least. But I'm interested to get your perspective, James. I think this would be a good talking point for us at the moment, given that today is a history day for Celtic. I think it's important to also look forward. Chris Strachan's got in touch with 2 names, Dan Petrescu and Slaven Bilic. All I would say, Chris, in regards to Dan Petrescu, I think he's just left his job. I don't think it was particularly going well towards the end for him before he left his post. Bilic, we know, was harshly treated. I mean, drawing at Manchester City and losing your job is tough. Stephen Coulthard saying that Dan Petrescu is a good shout. What do you make of those names, James? What's your opinion on Dan Petrescu and Slaven Bilic? Could they be potential longer-term, forward-thinking Celtic managers?
Potentially, but I think Celtic. If you look at the promising Scottish managers, I think it would be a really, really good PR move, and I think it would be a really, really solid approach to look at literally get the best and most qualified Scottish manager to manage the biggest club in Scotland. It's not rocket science, and I think it would take a lot of courage. But I mean, I go back to when Unai Emery was unfairly sacked at Arsenal, and his team are 4th in La Liga, winning yet again in Pamplona yesterday away at Osasuna. I was asked by many people, including speaking to Arsenal Fan TV at Carrow Road last November after the match, who I wanted as Unai Emery's replacement, and I said Chris Wilder, and I was literally lambasted by all and sundry. Oh, Chris Wilder, he's useless. He's not good enough for Arsenal. I was giving facts as to why I think he's good enough, and I was trying to say, we're an English club, we're English heritage. Why do we always have to look abroad? Why not get the best English manager at that time? And at that time, that was Chris Wilder. Obviously, his situation has changed. But I think, obviously, Bilic and Petrescu as well. I just think Celtic it would be a courageous move to look inwards and see, right, who's the best Scottish manager, who's the most capable Scottish manager, who's capable of making this step up. You say about Eddie Howe, but is he enough of a winner? I mean, you have to remember, this is even the Bournemouth fans sing on one of their chants, that Eddie Howe went to Burnley and then he came back, and they kind of chanted that he was homesick, but Burnley at that time was a difficult job, and if he struggled at Burnley, then to take the biggest job in Scottish football, not having a track record of winning anything, I think that could be very difficult from my point of view.
In terms of a Scottish manager, James, in terms of your shout, Regan Stevenson, hello to Regan's getting in touch to say Jack Ross could be the up-and-coming manager. What I would say, Regan, in regards to Jack Ross being a potential Celtic manager, I don't think this is the time for Jack Ross. I think he's rebuilding his reputation slightly following his dismissal at Sunderland. When you talk about Jack Ross as well, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. For me, if he doesn't win the League Cup with Hibs, given the sides that are left in it, namely Livingston, St Mirren and St Johnstone, I'm not saying he'll be under pressure at Hibs because he'll retain his job, but I don't think a manager who has done okay at Hibs long term will get the Celtic job. Now, I can tell already that people in the comments will say, well, that was Neil Lennon, etc. Well, you could argue that second time around, but obviously Neil's got his Celtic connection, as we know. Next one. Next name on the list, Jonathan Brown. We should have got Rafael Benitez before we went and got Neil Lennon. Could Celtic tempt Rafael Benitez back from China?
I don't think it's impossible, but I think there's a lot of minute information in contracts regarding Chinese clubs. You know, primarily your wages being astronomical. You know, and I'm not saying that people are led by money, but when you're offered eye-watering amounts of money, then it could turn anybody's head. But I just think that Celtic have to be proactive. I think it reminds me of what Craig Brown told me when obviously he was assistant to Alex Ferguson at Scotland, and you know, Alex Ferguson, you know, there was overtures from Arsenal and Tottenham, and Alex Ferguson said, well, I've got a job to do at the World Cup. I'm not speaking to anybody until after the World Cup. And Craig Brown even said that at poolside, you know, poolside in Mexico, when they're on a bit of downtime and they're chilling out and relaxing, you know, so Alex has got kind of a look on his face when, you know, the Arsenal appointed George Graham, Tottenham, I think, appointed David Pleat, and he kind of had a look upon his face of, you know, oh, maybe my chance is gone. And then apparently Martin Edwards spoke to Gordon Strachan, and he said to Gordon Strachan, he said, what about that Scottish manager who you had at Aberdeen? And Gordon Strachan's reply was, if you want a life of peace and quiet, then leave him alone. If you want to put a stick of dynamite through your football club, and you want him to bring success to your football club, then get him down to Manchester as soon as possible. And the rest, they say, is history. And you know, we're in a position speaking to professional players and managers almost every day at all different levels of world football. And I hope to go on to be part of a football club on the media sense. But one thing I would love to do in the future is that all that experience that's been built up the last 4.5 years of dealing with technical directors, players, managers, chairmen, agents, referees, you name it, you know, all that experience that you bring, that you have, you know, when you're at a football club, you've got a responsibility to make the right decision. It's not a choice that you make lightly. You're dealing with something which is exceptionally important to the local community that the football club finds itself in. So the people at board level, they have a massive responsibility to make the right decision, and that doesn't have to be taken in a blink of an eye. And especially with the way things are these day and age, you know, to make the decision which maybe isn't very popular, but you've got to stand by them. And managers also need time. I mean, Unai Emery received 18 months at Arsenal, and look at Arsenal now, we're a shambles. I mean, if Unai Emery was still in charge of Arsenal, we wouldn't be in the position we're in. But unfortunately, Arsenal have a fan base, particularly a young fan base. Not every Arsenal fan, just, you know, at the moment, obviously all fans have the good and bad, but Arsenal, particularly the younger fan base, Callum, they are more concerned with price tag and reputation rather than work rate, character and previous. Oh, he's worth 45 million quid. He must be amazing. Thomas Partey was a completely unnecessary buy. Completely unnecessary. I had people telling me, oh, Thomas Partey, we haven't had a player like him since Vieira. Well, no, because you can't go out and find another Patrick Vieira. Arsenal also have at the moment Thomas Partey, Aubameyang, Willian, Lacazette, and Ozil for at least until the end of the season, earning in excess of £1.5 million a week on the wage bill. One of them doesn't even play. One of them come on as a sub. One of them is injured, and Thomas Partey is on 260 grand a week. And if you look at your history, Thomas Partey before Atletico played for Real Mallorca. I watched him play in the UEFA Super Cup final in Tallinn in 2018, and he is a physical specimen, extremely, extremely strong. But you know, I advocated at the start of the summer that Arsenal need to go for the youth setup with a fine tooth comb, but no, we didn't do that. Went out and spent 30 million euros on Gabriel, who before signing for Lille played for Dynamo Zagreb and Troyes.
Oh, James, can I just come in there? There is a comment coming in about a Scottish manager potentially next. One of the men that have been mentioned is Steve Clarke. Steve Clarke has taken Scotland to the Euros. Do you think Steve Clarke would consider swapping Scotland for Celtic?
No. I think they worked so hard to get to that tournament. He's got to see it through, and he needs to look no further than Ronald Koeman. Koeman left the Dutch national side for Barcelona, and now he won't finish the season, as I said on our European football show. I think Koeman will be sacked in February, and the Dutch national team will be going to the Euros, and I think they all work so hard, to get to the Euros. You got to enjoy it. You got to take these. You got to take these experiences when they come. Do you remember Laurie Sanchez when he was manager of Northern Ireland, and they were on the cusp of qualifying for the Euros, completely on the cusp, and he went to Fulham, and then the qualifying campaign kind of slips away. But if he'd have stayed as manager of Northern Ireland, they may well have qualified. So you have to see things through to the end.
Well, I suppose that's a fair point. I want to ask you about two Celtic players from the past in particular. So I'm sure that the comments, the guys coming in, will be up for a laugh when I mention these two players. Dirk Boerigter and Edson Braafheid, two guys who came to Celtic. Braafheid amazingly went on to play in a World Cup final, which stunned every single fan of Celtic. But and every single fan was stunned by that. And Dirk Boerigter came in for around £3 million from Ajax, was touted as being a player that would make a difference. And in the end, he spent far more time in the treatment room than he did on the park. To start with, James, start me on Braafheid, because I'm assuming the comments that will come in here, there's not a Celtic fan that has pleasant memories about his time at the club. He was a strange person.
Well, if you look at his career, FC Twente, FC Utrecht, he's now playing in the United States for Austin Bold, I believe. Nobody expected him to play in a World Cup final, but he did. And it just goes to show that you never know what's going to happen in a career. You never know what's going to happen in a career, and to play in that World Cup final, I mean, that's what 10 and a half years ago now, and the scars are still visible for the national team in that respect, because it was the third time unlucky. And in the case of Boerigter, he obviously when you play for RKC Waalwijk, and when you play for Zwolle, and then obviously for Ajax, and then going to the biggest club in Celtic, in Celtic in Scotland, it can be a little bit of a culture shock. And I think obviously his injury record didn't help, but also the level of expectation as well. Some people can handle it and some people can't, unfortunately.
Well, he was one that certainly didn't handle it. That's fair to say. In terms of Boerigter, what was your opinion of him when he was over there in the Netherlands? Because when he came to Celtic, there was a bit of expectation. His debut was against Ross County, but he just wasn't good enough at Celtic in the end. Injuries, though, were probably the big reason behind that.
Yeah, and also the level. I mean, Ajax is the biggest club in the Netherlands, bar none. This club is literally an institution. Is what it is, and I just think that I mean, he was well prepared in terms of experience of Ajax, but the level up of going to Celtic in terms of going to a different country, going to play in a different league. I mean, as I said earlier on in the show, you've got people that like to do away with the other leagues and say, oh, they're useless, they're rubbish. It's simply not as simple as that. As I said to you earlier, the mental strength you need to play for an Ajax and a Celtic is absolutely massive. You literally have to win every single game you play, and then you have to win it in style. So it's not just simply the case of winning the game. You got to win it with a bit of panache as well. And I just think the timing was a little bit out of kilter for him, but he'll look back on a great experience. And also, Badalfad went on to play for Lazio. And it's to say, you never know in a career, who's looking, you never know who's going to come in for you. So, very interesting with those two players in particular.
We've got just 8 minutes left, so let's spend these 8 minutes talking about today. As I say, for the people in the comments, James and I were brought in to talk about the Dutch connections at Celtic today. James, of course, as a Dutch football expert. But we will spend our last 10 minutes talking about today. And the next show, I'm sure, we'll be covering that in detail. In terms of the achievement today, I mean, if I just sum it up from my point of view, I thought in the first half, Celtic were absolutely fantastic. I thought in the first half, the tempo was good. Ryan Christie's goal was absolutely sublime. And for me, Celtic were cruising in the first half. Hearts midfielders, particularly Andy Halliday, was getting wound up. He was diving into silly tackles, and Celtic were in full command. The second half for me, and I'm sure you may agree in the comments, was deeply worrying, and it just wasn't good enough. And for me, when Hearts and Boys scored right after half time, it was just ominous. I mean, when Celtic came out after half time, I think most people would agree, when you're 2-0 up, you get that next goal and you probably seal the game. But when Boys scored, it was really poor. And from there, Hearts grew into the game. Extra time, again, similar story. Lee Griffiths scored the goal, and you think it's written in the script that a Hibs fan is going to score the goal that downs Hearts and seals the quadruple treble. It wasn't to be, and it goes to penalties. But one of the things that, James, today that is really intriguing is the goalkeeper today for Celtic was Connor Hazard. He is a young goalkeeper. He's Northern Irish, and he's a player that was on loan at Dundee last season. And if you asked most elements of the Celtic support, probably all, I don't think anyone, even Connor himself, would have expected to be playing for Celtic these last few games, never mind in a Scottish Cup final. He made an error for Hearts' third goal, and it was, let's be honest with you, it was a mistake. There's no other way to put it. But to be fair, he made up for it in penalties, and the celebrations tonight for him and so many others will be incredible. Neil Lennon, after the game, I'm seeing in the comments, is apparently, I've not had the chance to see it yet, so forgive me if this is wrong, said that he thanks the Celtic board, Peter Lawwell, Dermot Desmond, for sticking by him during the club's tough spell. We've talked about potentially a long-term change. We've also talked about how this could be a catalyst for Celtic going forward. Charles, I agree, leave the manager alone, but it is a talking point, and that's why we're covering it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens longer term. Now, James, the last question I've got for you is a question that has come in from AGSC Technology Videos. And their question is quite straightforward. Now, think about the Celtic budget when you answer this question, James, of course, but which players playing in the Eredivisie would James recommend that Celtic sign? Are there any gems out there that Celtic could afford?
Well, there's two in particular which I think are feasible. First and foremost, they both play for the same club. I'll try to maybe think of a third one as well to mix it up a little bit. Arsene Alkmaar are really bearing fruit with their youth policy, and they reinvested in their training ground. They really helped with the young youth players, and there's two in particular they've created that if they want regular football and they want to go to a league and get themselves in a position to grow as a footballer and play every game rather than being on the bench, I think you've got to look at Calvin Stengs and Turncold Mainers. Both play for Arsene Alkmaar. Calvin Stengs has done it ever so well to come back from as a young player to come back from such a horrible knee injury.
Which position does he play in?
He's a winger. He's a winger, and he's also got himself into the Dutch national team setup, and he's doing it very, very well. And also Turncold Mainers, who's the captain of RZ, a tremendous dead ball specialist. You know, already got a record as a penalty killer in terms of, you know, I remember seeing an interview with him when he played for Dutch youth side against Portugal, and he scored a penalty. And he said, the reporter said, "How do you do what you do in terms of penalties?" He said, "Well, I just put the ball on the spot. I turn around, I make my mind up, and I whack it as hard as I can." And you know, he's got a great attitude as well. You know, to captain RZ is no mean feat. So I think those two in particular, and people might say, "Oh, they would never go to Celtic." Yes, they would, because those two players in particular realise that it's very important for young players to play in particular. You know, it's very important for them to kind of continue their development and not necessarily end up on the bench. I mean, we've spoken about Donny van der Beek on the bench yet again tonight. You know, this time last
season... Can I just quickly interrupt, James? £20,154 has been raised, Jimbo. Absolutely fantastic. We're delighted with that. Sorry, James, continue on.
No, congratulations first and foremost. Hopefully our chats have also helped the people to think, well, we'll dig a little bit deep due to the quality. So let's hope so. But yeah, in the case of Van Beek tonight, I think to myself, you know, he was captain in Ajax this time last year, you know, and now he's on the bench at Manchester United, and it just goes to show how quickly things can change. So I would say about Calvin Stengs and Turncold Mainers, another player who I've rated for years, and although he's recently signed for Feyenoord are in a little bit of a bit of upheaval in terms of a new manager coming in next season. It's a player called Brian Linson, and he's an absolutely tremendous footballer. A really, really good footballer. And I wonder if he's surplus to requirements by Feyenoord, Celtic could do a lot worse in getting him on board. He's not the youngest, but he has tremendous quality. And, you know, just because, I mean, he came up the hard way, you know, playing for Venlo and Groningen and Heracles, and, you know, signing for Vitesse, captain Vitesse as well. And then, you know, he's made so many goals, so many assists. And if he is deemed surplus to requirements at Feyenoord this summer, having only just signed for the club, I might add, I think it's unlikely, but I think it's a name Celtic should really be marking down, because I think he'd jump at the chance to play abroad for the first time at such a big club.
Absolutely. Now, we are about to wrap up. Just before we go, it's an incredible day for Celtic, a quadruple treble. I am going to have a few beers tonight, it's safe to say. Just before I go, to tee up for the next show, I just want to mention the starting 11 I hope to see going forward for Celtic. I think Hazard will start in goal in the next game. I think he'll keep him in. I've just seen that comment from Philip DeMarco about the Boers. Oh, brilliant, Philip. Sorry, right back, I think Christopher Ayer's doing well there. I think Neil Lennon will stay with Julien and Duffy. At left back, I would like to see Laxall come back in. I like McGregor in the deeper role. I also like Solo and Turnbull playing together. If Mikey Johnson's fit, I'd like to see him get a run of games. I actually think I would give Griffiths a start in the next game, if I'm honest with you. He took his goal well today. He looks a wee bit sharper. And on the right-hand side, you may see Elyounoussi play again, or you may even see Frimpong being pushed further forward. But James and myself, we're just about to wrap up here. You can check out Football CFB. I host Football CFB. Guests that might interest you this year. Henrik Larsson's been on the show, as has John Hartson, Chris Sutton. I've also had Packy Boner in the show. I have had so many more former Celts on the show, hoping to get a current Celt on the show in the new year, but I need to keep that close to my chest for the time being. But from James and myself, it's been an absolute joy sharing this hour with you. I know it's maybe not been the party that you expected with ourselves, but we were brought in to talk about the Dutch connections at Celtic. I am absolutely delighted for the club. It's an incredible piece of history. I hope everyone enjoys their evening. I hope you've enjoyed our chat for this hour. I hope we've given you some insight into potential players Celtic could sign. We went down memory lane by talking about Wim Jansen, someone we remember fondly, and maybe a couple that we don't remember as fondly. But from James and myself, thank you so much for your time. And just before we go, just to say that we're approaching £21,000. And I want to put on record my thanks to Paul John Dykes for having me on the show. And I also want to say a thank you to everyone listening to this and everyone that's donated. The charities that a Celtic State of Mind is following are absolutely incredible. They do incredible work, and the achievement to bring all these people together is Paul's. He deserves immense credit, and so do you for donating. Thank you so much for your time today, and hail, hail.